Welcome back to the weekend wrap. No production, just my thoughts. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. To say that I'm extremely surprised right now is understatement. Okay, so full disclaimer, I haven't seen everything from yesterday. I haven't seen any of the Queensberry card. I was supposed to be in attendance, but I did predict that Sam Noakes would get the victory via decision. I know he was 13-0 with 13 KOs. I think a lot of people were expecting that KO streak to continue. But knowing Yvonne Mendy the way that I do, sort of very responsible defensively, got a pretty good chin as well, and just a tough guy. Yeah, I had a feeling that he wouldn't really have any issues seeing the bell, especially when Sam Noakes has never kind of been at that level before. But from what I saw, the scorecards, it looks like he pitched a shutout on all three judges' scorecards. So maybe Mendy just went there to survive. Not sure. I was predicting sort of like, a bunch of 117, 111s, maybe some 118, 110s, but it would be competitive. I haven't seen it. Can't really comment. On the undercard of Haney versus Garcia, I saw some of the prelims. I specifically was watching the Omari Jones fight against Armel Mbombayasa. That was a really good performance from Omari Jones, and I've had my eye on Omari Jones for a little while in terms of some of his fights and his trainings and preparations. He's one of Devin Haney's fighters. He's got that little Philly rat tail that he keeps behind the head, a bit like Prince Hakeem from Coming to America. So personally, I'd want to get rid of that. I don't really, like them kind of styles. But that being said, really good fighter, can fight both orthodox and southpaw. Very good angles, and as a prospect, he's he's one to watch, definitely in my opinion, in that middleweight division. After that, I know I saw the Darius Fulgrim fight. Then I didn't really see anything until the Sean McComb fight. Luckily, I was gonna wait until this morning to watch everything, but I was up doing something else, and I had to stream, which I was actually streaming from my phone. And luckily, the stream was perfect, never buffered once, it held out. So I said, okay, cool, let's watch it live. So I saw Sean McComb and Arnold Barboza Jr. Now, my prediction, I guess I got my prediction right because I did pick Barboza Jr. to win, but really and truly, my prediction should have been wrong. Like, he lost that fight. I wasn't scoring because I wasn't caring about the fight. I didn't care about the undercard, as most of you know, hence why I didn't purchase the pay-per-view. But I was looking at that fight sort of from a stylistic point of view, especially looking at how Arnold Barboza Jr. has fought his last couple of fights, the Jose Pedraza fight, the fight he had, his previous fight, I can't remember who the name of the guy he was fighting, and just some of his other fights. He's a pure boxer. Like, he doesn't have a huge amount of power, but he's like a front foot pressure pure boxer, which I know that sounds a bit weird, but that's the type of style that he has. He's like, everything is sort of flowing 1-2s, sort of basic 1-2s straight in front of you, but he just sort of keeps the work rate up. And he just, is very sort of textbook, keeps the distance while doing it. But in this fight, Sean McComb, especially from that southpaw stance, like, Arnold Barboza had absolutely no answers for it whatsoever. Frequently falling into shots. He did some good body work in sort of the first half of the fight, and then maybe 1 or 2 rounds towards the back half. But while I wasn't kind of scoring it officially, I looked and pretty much said to myself, in the first 6 rounds, I had it. I think I had it 4-2 to McComb after 6. Potentially could have even been 5-1. Like, his countering, his back foot boxing, and not only just back foot, he wasn't just sort of hitting and running. Like, he was, making Barboza miss, and he was making him pay almost every time. And, he was slipping and sliding on the inside as well. Very good defensively, barely got hit with much, especially up top. And we're just popping Barboza's head back. He even hurt him to the body a couple of times. Barboza visibly winced and retreated, like, momentarily on several occasions from those body shots. So yeah, Sean McComb, it was unfortunate. He had a 98, 92 scorecard for himself. Then Barboza had a 96, 94, and then a 97, 93 to him. There were maybe a couple of rounds that were close. So, okay, you can maybe understand the 96, 94. Barboza, obviously him being like the eighth side fighter and the whole, sort of the home promotion. But to me, at absolute best, if you gave him any round that's close, to me, he gets a draw from what I saw. Again, I'm going to have to go back and watch it. Breakdowns coming up on Tuesday. I definitely will be rewatching that and sort of going over it with a fine-tooth comb and giving a proper score. But based on, looking at it round by round, not just momentum of the fight and all that sort of stuff, Sean McComb definitely was cheated out of a legitimate victory. I won't go as far as saying robbery, because we kind of knew that short of maybe a knockout or a couple of knockdowns, Arnold Barboza Jr. was meant to be, the winner, and it would move on to, I guess, opportunities moving forward. But that just sort of set the tone for what was due to happen next. Let's talk about it. First things first, before we even dissect maybe things that went wrong, things that went right. Massive congratulations to Ryan Garcia. I'm not a huge fan of Garcia as a whole, but he has shown that he can sort of come through adversity on times to win, especially earlier in his career. Obviously, the Luke Campbell fight is the biggest indicator of that. But it also still shows just like how limited of a fighter he is. And I guess you might even look at him as Deontay Wilder status at this point, in terms that he does so much technically wrong, but he has this quote unquote power and speed that just manages to get him out of trouble. But he did well yesterday. I mean, look, no one in Devin's career has dropped him. He's been hurt before, but he's always managed to stay on his feet. Yes, there's some excessive holding at times when he's trying to recover and get his legs back. He's done that in the past. He did that last night, but he survived. If you look at obviously his face at the end of it, like his cheeks were swollen on both sides. Definitely like there was some like maybe hematomas underneath on both sides of his face. Like it was heavily bruised. Some people were suggesting that his jaw might be broken. I think he's come out on to X now and said, no, nothing's broken, everything's fine, he's fine. But yeah, look, let's talk about it. And this might actually be controversial, but when I looked at this fight, it kind of actually had a little bit of Lawrence Okoli and Chris Billam-Smith elements. If you look at even sort of the way the fight played out, because if you remember, in that fight, there was one scorecard that had it 112, a draw, and then the other two scorecards went to Chris Billam-Smith. Now, full disclaimer, I was keeping a mental note of each round, but I wasn't hard, fast analysing every round like I would normally do and giving a scorecard live and all of that stuff. But when I was watching the fight, obviously first round, big to Ryan Garcia, hurts Devin Haney early in the first round. But from the second round onwards, pretty much Haney was dominant. He hurt and wobbled Ryan Garcia in the third round and inexplicably chose to not step on the gas, maybe try to sort of catch him when he's unawares. Probably felt that, Ryan is at his most dangerous when he's wounded and he's hurt. So decided to just hold back and just sort of keep applying that pressure. He was doing well with shots to the body, some straight rights upstairs, and he was just pretty much having a period of dominance where it looked like, okay, Ryan sort of he dumped the adrenaline early and was having to recover, and in that moment is now sort of getting backed up and beat up. So we get to the sixth round though, and the sixth round looks a little more competitive. Ryan tries to throw a couple flurries. I think Devin manages to ride most of the shots, but there's a couple to get through, and he looks a bit more. He starts to laugh at him like, okay, I see what you're trying to do, and you think, okay, this is where maybe Ryan was going for his last stand, his last dump. But I don't know whether Devin got overconfident or Ryan is just sort of tactically so astute, knowing Devin's tells and his patterns, but he basically turned the fight around to his favor in that 7th round. First knockdown of Devin Haney's career, multiple incidents of Devin Haney holding on for dear life, trying to get his legs back. He did fall, he fell down 2 more times, but the ref didn't count those. I think one of them, he said, Ryan sort of pushed him down, and the other one, I think it was similar, something similar, or Ryan went to maybe throw him off, and he fell down as well. I think that's what the referee was saying. I'd have to watch them back. One of them, to me, I think was a result of a punch that was landed, but I do also think that maybe the punch strayed sort of behind the back of the head. Devin sort of fell inwards and the punch sort of landed backwards, and then Ryan's obviously backing out and trying to shoo him off, and he falls over. So maybe that one, but the other one definitely could have been called a knockdown. Then in the moment, Harvey Doc's in there trying to call break, and he calls the break, and as he's trying to separate them, Ryan hits Devin on the break, so Harvey Doc knocks off he deducts a point from him. A lot of people was like, him getting a point off there was unfair, it was harsh, there was no warnings and whatnot. Well, to be totally honest, I actually got no issue with that point deduction, purely because, and I'll get to this in a moment, but in the fight you saw, like, the referee numerous times admonish both guys about either holding or basically fighting dirty. You had Ryan Garcia on numerous occasions, like headlocking Devin Haney, and obviously Haney's trying to get himself out, and Ryan's obviously squeezing down, and the referee's trying to separate them, and he's having trouble separating them. And in the first half of that fight, it's definitely a lot more Ryan is sort of holding, hugging, and bear hugging and headlocking and all sorts more so than Devin Haney is. Devin doesn't do a lot of holding in that first half of the fight. So maybe at that point, and obviously the referee warned both of them a couple of times, but he mainly kind of on Ryan's side, and it's like, stop the holding, listen to my instructions, like, you guys, whatever. So you can kind of then see that if he now hits on the break, well, he's kind of been warned numerous times to keep it clean and doesn't do so. So to me, the point was fair, but big round for Ryan Garcia. And then in the 8th round, it's like Devin comes, he gets back to his corner, he seems okay, but he comes back out, he comes out aggressive. It's almost like, he's trying to get back. Ryan starts to do that shell, turning his back numerous times. Obviously, there's a couple of times where the referee admonishes Devin for hitting him in the back, and Devin's like, well, he's turning his back to me, what can I do? And obviously that's more of a tactic, I guess, for Ryan to stop someone from attacking, because obviously we know that you can't hit around the back, but it's also a dangerous tactic, because if you do it either too much or you're off by a couple of degrees, that can end up getting the fight called off to say that you're submitting because you're turning away from the action, you no longer want to compete. So he's kind of got to check that Philly shell, side turn, whatever it is. But obviously Devin's in there, he's trying to maybe get back, and probably feels at this point, okay, Ryan's done, his conditioning ain't there, I'm still strong, he's knocked me down, I need to get that back. And Devin then starts obviously making some mistakes due to that. 10th round, the 9th round is more of the same. Devin's again trying to go for it, he's having some success, but again, Ryan's he's not really showing much. He's having sporadic bursts here and there. But in the 10th, he comes back, big flurry, big salvo, and Devin, rather than trying to use his footwork, uses movement and his agility that has got him out of trouble like so many times in previous fights. He sort of tries to stay within the pocket and ride the wave and ride the storm. I don't know if he was trying to hope for a counter, or he's just deciding that, or maybe he doesn't have the legs anymore after that first knockdown. Maybe his legs maybe never came all the way back. Maybe his legs weren't properly right from the first round when he caught that very first left hook. Not sure, but gets knocked down again. It did look at, there were some shots that landed, but Devin looked like he was on his feet still. And this isn't any, but it looked as if Ryan sort of came in when he tried to come in with the last one. Devin's caught it. Possibly looks like a little bit of a forearm, elbows followed in, and at that point. Obviously, I think the legs were together as well, and Devin obviously goes down again. Legitimate knockdown, but it just looked like there might have been a bit of a forearm / elbow that connects. But I'd have to see it on the slow motion replay. But yeah, that happens again. More holding from Devin, and the 11th, same thing, and that happened I think earlier on in the round. So there was a lot of holding this one. Now at this point, you could definitely say that Devin Haney probably should have got a point taken off, because it wasn't just sort of clinch, like spin and disengaged. It was like excessive holding to the point where even when the referee's trying to break them at certain points, Devin's still holding on. But to be fair, Ryan also done the same thing, like I said, in the first half of the fight, and even in stages in the second half of the fight as well. So Devin legitimately could have had another point taken off, but so could Ryan. So it just depends on maybe the referee's discretion. I know some people had issues with Harvey Dock's calling of the fight, but it was a very sort of messy fight to score and to sort of officiate. And very similar, as I said, I actually kind of gave Devin the 12th because Ryan did land one good sort of counter shot in the 12th, but I feel like Devin pressed the action, landed a couple more, and then Ryan's obviously showboating and sort of dancing about. I know some people will probably give him the round for that, no problem. But when I look at it, when I say it had elements of Lawrence Okolie and Chris Bidham-Smith, when I look at that fight, every round that Lawrence Okolie didn't get knocked down in, I think I gave pretty much every round to Lawrence Okolie. And obviously he had the 2 points taken off as well. So when you look at that the 112 scorecard, it was, you could legitimately could have got there. It wasn't like, a horrible decision. And in this one, when they had the 112 scorecard, I kind of agreed a little bit with Chris Mannix. But again, that 6th round is the only one where I say that probably could have been a swing. And that 6th round is what made it 112 for me. It possibly, if you give the 12th round to Ryan, then I can see where you maybe get a sort of a 113, 111 for him. Obviously, if you give him the 6th round as well, which I guess maybe some did, then that's also 114, 110, which I think was one of the scorecards. So all of the scorecards themselves were, they were fine. To me, I can understand how the judges got to that decision, but I actually personally had it 113, 111 to Haney, because I had him winning. Was it 112? 116, 113, 112. I had it to Haney, sorry. The maths was all over the place. No, it would have been 113, 111 because of the point deduction. I forgot about the point. Yeah, I had it that way purely because I had him winning 8 rounds of the fight. Ryan just happened to win 4 rounds, like majorly. And it was one of those ones, if I had have seen Devin's hand get raised at the end, I could have seen how we got there. But there's no complaints with who did win the fight. And Ryan obviously has showed that a lot of what people thought about him is either maybe over exaggerated or maybe he's come through the other side of something else. He looks like he took a play from Teofimo Lopez's playbook, because fighting for or being on this trajectory where you're fighting someone and you don't know if they're even going to turn up in shape for the fight, what's going on in their life. They're talking X, Y, and Z. They're having, it looks like they're having a mental breakdown in public eye, and you're like, well, is this fight even going to go ahead? Like, how do I actually take this training seriously? There could have been a lot of lapsed concentration in that camp. Maybe Ryan's game plan was just better overall. Maybe the amateur stuff, maybe he knew exactly what does and doesn't work with Devin, even though Devin's obviously improved massively since those days. Who knows? There's a lot to kind of unpack in this entire situation. But he executed a game plan flawlessly, and unfortunately Devin didn't. And part of executing that game plan was also intentionally blowing the weight coming in. Now look, mad unprofessional, we know that. There's no one that can ever excuse that. Yes, he had the whole, he was massively depleted and dehydrated in the Tank Davis fight, and I've always conceded that. Look, I gave him grace for a lot of that, and I still felt that he would. I felt that he would win purely because he gave up all of those advantages. I'm like, you must know something that I don't know. So I'm gonna pick you to win this fight, because you don't give up every single condition to your opponent if you're not 100% confident that you can win. But clearly in that one, it just showed that I guess he was just looking a shortcut to success. But in this particular occasion, he's gone the total opposite way. And regardless of what anyone says, you can't say that him not making the weight didn't have any effect on how this fight played out. Now, don't get me wrong, he probably still could have won in a similar fashion. But he said, even in one of the pre-fight build-ups, he said, I wasn't going to kill myself to make 140. Like, I'm going to come in strong, and I'm going to come in. All I care about is the victory. So maybe he knew that by not depleting himself down, his power is going to travel a lot further. His punch resistance is going to be a lot better. And even if potentially Devin Haney rehydrated to more than him in the ring, which I actually don't think. I think Ryan was the considerably bigger person. He looked massive in there compared to Devin, which isn't a problem, because Devin's been the massive guy in the ring on numerous occasions. So you give some, you have to take some as well. No diggity, no doubt. But when we just sort of look at the scenario itself, you say, well, Devin definitely left a lot more of himself in the gym and in the trainings and the sparrings than Ryan did, just by the fact that he's obviously had to shed a lot of excess weight. He didn't look great at the weigh-in, so maybe it could be he may not even be long for 140 himself. Ryan's come out and said that he's going to be fighting at 147 moving forward. He can't make 140 anymore. I reckon he can. I reckon he just doesn't want to, like I said, deplete himself down. And some of that depletion could have potentially affected Devin's punch resistance. A lot of people have always spoke about his chin, said he's chinny, but he's taken shots. Remember, he's taken shots on numerous occasions. Yeah, his legs don't always handle them the best, but he's never been down before. This is the first time he's been down in a fight. This legitimately could be the biggest puncher he's ever faced as well in Ryan Garcia. But there could be other factors. Now, I'm not going to take too much of Ryan's victory away due to the weight thing, because I also said when he came in at 136 pounds with the 10 pound rehydration clause for Tank, you signed the contract. So I can't really say much to you with regards to that. But the difference here is that he intentionally missed weight the day before the fight. And I've seen a lot of people say, yeah, well, look, Devin agreed to it. So whether he was depleted or whether Ryan got an unfair advantage, that's his business kind of thing. And I understand that. But the caveat I would have is there's a difference between having a preset contract to say you're going to come in at this weight and then be depleted because you're at that weight, as opposed to you're contracted to be at the weight of 140 and you purposefully don't choose that. Here's the thing, if Devin had and I was talking to Michael Montero on Twitter about this a little earlier, so shout out to him. But it's a case where if Devin pulls out of the fight and says, no, you didn't make weight, I've done my job, you didn't do yours, the fight's off. And number one, he doesn't get paid. Obviously, he wants his money. He still thinks that he's gonna have enough to beat Ryan Garcia, but he don't get paid. Ryan doesn't get paid, but Ryan probably doesn't care in some instances. Maybe he'll say, oh yeah, you're a punk, you didn't want to face me, rare. But he don't get paid. The undercard doesn't go ahead because the event doesn't go ahead without that main event. Everyone's going to ask for their refund because no one cared anything about the undercard. So the undercard fighters don't get paid. You've got people that flew in from the other side of the country to go and be there, and you've got people obviously that bought tickets and had to pay for accommodations and stuff, and then you pull the fight like the day before. The whole thing is not going to look great, even if they blame Ryan. But the fact is, Ryan came in at 143, but he was still willing to fight. It would have been on Devin's back that he's the one that pulled the fight and had the issues with taking the fight in those conditions. So some people maybe would have questioned his heart. So there's just so many things to play about with in the whole narrative, to the point where I don't think even if he wanted to pull out due to an unfair advantage making weight, that he would have. So yeah, with that, I feel it's a little bit of a different situation, and I can understand being in a predicament whereby you're now not happy to continue because obviously one person has got a clear unfair advantage. in the scenario, but you've kind of just got to go through with it for the betterment of the event. So yeah, also look, big kudos to Devin Haney, because for someone who don't have a chin, apparently he got up 3 times. That last knockdown especially was the heaviest of all 3 of them. The first one, like, you could tell that he kind of still had it together, but that last one looked the most devastating. But he still managed to get on his feet and potentially win the round after that. And every round, I mean, apart from obviously the 10th, like when he got knocked down, he sort of came back in the next round and looked like looked to dominate, or looked to still press the action. Maybe he would have been better off. He said he's going to go to the center of the ring and, you know, and swing it out with Ryan, and he kind of did. He kept and held center for the majority of the fight, and Ryan was the one moving. Maybe Devin should have been the one moving and using his natural countering abilities. But again, so there's a lot in that performance that didn't look great. There's some questionable issues with, I guess, his dad, how he was moving, how he made certain comments. Maybe the mindset and the game plan was all wrong, knowing, you know, that what they were supposed to be looking for all night. And in those first few rounds, Ryan was really wildly throwing out that left hook, almost like he was baiting them in to say, yeah, oh, you're going to be able to read this so easily. And then he's almost like he just switched up the game plan and started concealing it after a while, after being so reckless with it early on. There's so much to sort of look through in this fight, but again, massive congrats to Ryan Garcia. I definitely didn't see that happening. I saw Devin stopping him, not even just because of the whole mental thing, but Devin looked to me like the power was starting to return at 140. But with that also being said, again, looking how he kind of looked making the weight, it gave remnants of how he was looking making the weight in those last couple of fights at 135. So it could be, I mean, he might still be able to make the weight and feel like, yeah, he's fine at the weight, but he could be long to not to be moving up again quite soon. So yeah, look, that's my thoughts. The extra 3 pounds definitely played an advantage, but Ryan's tactics primarily, you know, he did what he needed to do. So congrats to him. Deserved victory. Even though I did have it scored the other way, I've got no issues with him winning. Obviously, Devin's now 31-1. He's lost his O. Ryan's lost his O. You got Shakur left with a O. TFEMA obviously lost his, and you've got Tank Davis. Funny enough, Tank Davis was all over social media. He loved it. But again, the one thing I don't want people to be doing is giving Tank Davis credit for Ryan Garcia's victory, or acting like this is his victory, when the people are like, oh, you see, Tank would have destroyed Devin. I don't want to hear about Devin and Tank. No, that's a totally different fight, totally different styles, dimensions. I would still pick Devin Haney to beat Tank Davis. I've stood on that for a while, the same as I would pick Shakur to beat Tank Davis. Their style and the way that they fight doesn't lend well to the way that Tank Davis likes to fight. So yeah, don't be giving Tank Davis the victory off of Ryan's work. Like, let him earn his victory himself. If he's better than Haney, and if he can knock out Haney and beat Haney, let him knock out and beat Haney. And don't be saying, oh, well, he doesn't need to fight him now because look what happened here. It's not the same thing whatsoever. Also, with regards to that, like, I could have potentially made, to be honest, I didn't see any way where Ryan Garcia would see the final belt and win the fight. It was one of those ones, if he won, it would have to be like a crazy knockdown stoppage, and I would have never seen him go 12 rounds and beat Haney in a boxing contest, which, to be fair, in my opinion, he didn't. But you know what I mean? So congrats to him. And as I said, while there are shades of Okoli and Billum Smith, it was decidedly more entertaining than that fight. But leave your comments down below. I've had a lot of thoughts to sort of get through, so I can appreciate the video is extremely long, but it is what it is. Thank you very much for watching though. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. There will be some content on the channel tomorrow as well, and then back again Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, etc. But I will leave it there. Enjoy the rest of your day. Absorb this information, process it, dissect it however you need to. It's a big one, but I will catch you next time. That's the weekend wrapped up. But until then, peace.